face and start kicking ass, just like it said at the beginning of the program.
Man of the hour, tower of power, too sweet to be sour.
Sending your ass on the jabroni jet to the other side of the territory, brother.
The Alabama Hammer.
Nightmares on the best part of my day.
The goods from the woods.
Hot damn!
Welcome to the Goods from the Woods. My name is Rivers Langley.
I am Pat Riley.
This is good night, the man of the hour, the tower of power, too sweet to be sour.
Do you still have Yacht Rock just going?
Yes.
When I went down to answer the door, I heard the sounds of "Do You Feel Like We Do" on the other side of my door, and damned if it wasn't the.
You look like Boogie Woogie Man hit Jimmy Valiant on a hunting trip.
We were MILF hunting. What is that? We caught some big racks, if you understand, with
Jesus.
Big Mama.
And
Street lady came walking by.
and joining us today, I'm so happy to have our guest. She is 1/3 of one of the most impressive stables in wrestling podcasting, 1/3 of the nation of conversation, and great comedian and my friend.
Danielle Radford.
Yeah,
I
there we
wasn't sure
go.
if you're going to do the thing where I was going to do the thing. Hi, it's me. I'm Danielle.
I make people say their own name. It's yeah.
No, thank you. I like it. I like it. I like the power.
Well, thank you so much for being here. So, for the past couple of months, we've been doing sort of like deep dive episodes into very, very specific topics, and this specific topic is one that Pat actually did the research for.
Yeah,
and
I'm the one with the format.
He's got the damn format.
I actually typed up a format.
And for this particular thing, I was like, all right, it's wrestling related, and it's going to be funny. And when I think funny and I think wrestling, I think Miss Danielle Radford. And here
that's
she is.
silly, but thank you. I will tell my mom.
Pat, do you want to roll into it?
Sure. Yeah. So I picked this topic because it's topical for a couple of reasons.
It's tropical stuff.
It's tropical material, yeah. And it's topical for a couple of reasons. So we have a group of listeners that are wrestling fans. Mm-hmm. And this week, as we're recording, this past week, New Japan Pro Wrestling had its equivalent of WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom. And arguably, it's probably one of the most like kind of consequential shows that they've held on like for their kind of global image, right? And a lot of people are talking about that this is a monumental moment.
This is 11, correct?
Yeah, and I think that it was 12, and
Yeah.
I believe that they increased subscriptions by like 10K or something crazy
25
like that.
actually.
It's weird that their website is still so terrible. Like
That is some Angel Fire GeoCities. I don't care that it's in another language, but it looks like I designed it in 12th grade.
right. Well, also the fact that you have to then switch it over to English, then it still looks bad and it's hard to find stuff. Like, here's the thing, Japan, there's a bunch of nerds who love wrestling and would gladly do it for a pretty discounted rate.
And again, I have to imagine that even if you're Japanese, you're looking at that and you're being like, oh, that fucking sucks. But like in
Right.
Japanese.
Yeah,
Like,
right, yeah, exactly.
like, oh, that's really bad.
But as big as Wrestle Kingdom 12 was, what was their biggest show?
Yeah, good question.
This also kind of comes into the second part of why this is topical, and this is for our non-wrestling fans. North Korea in the news.
All perpetually.
Yeah.
Be
Still
chill, you
scared.
guys. Be chill. I know that if you're like me, it makes like a weird thing go up your spine, then you just want to hide under your pillow, but I promise this will be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's ever present and always scary.
This is an opportunity where we can combine both. Because today,
Believe it or not.
we are going to be talking about the biggest wrestling show in the history of the world. The
Yeah?
most attended wrestling show in the history of the world.
Wow.
Was it that thing that caused a traffic jam in Greensboro?
Nah, unfortunately not. What it is the Pyongyang International Sports and Culture Festival of Peace, or as known by in America,
For the first time ever on pay-per-view, it's a spectacular one-time global event. Collision in Korea.
WCW's Collision in Korea.
That is the most American goddamn thing I can
I'm
think
sorry.
of.
Did they call it that for real?
So originally they actually spelled collision with a K.
I was like, surely they did that. You couldn't avoid that.
Yeah.
It was the mid-90s after all. Misspelling was all the rage.
It happened on April 28th and 29th, 1995 at Mayday Stadium. It was 2 nights. The first night was attended by a reported 165,000 people.
Holy shit.
Although Meltzer has to come in because he doesn't like audience inflation. He said it was 150,000. I have sources, Brian. And
So put that in, what was the one that was at the
Pontiac Silverdome.
Yeah, what was it? The Silverdome.
93,000 is the kayfabe number.
yeah.
No, what's the? Okay, we'll stick with the kayfabe number.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah,
according to
93,000.
WWE, it's 93,000 people.
Sure.
And
Well-
then what was it in Dallas? I think it was
It was like 103.
103,000.
Well, that doesn't hold a candle to the second day, which was attended by a reported 190,000 people.
So that's everyone.
mandatory.
That's everyone in North Korea.
Yeah, or based on Meltzer math, 165,000 people.
I love that. I want him to get arrested. That's really. I want.
Why? Meltzer rules.
I want Kim Jong-Il to be like to get pissed at Meltzer, for calling him on his bullshit.
Kim Jong-Il isn't with us anymore. Okay.
But he was.
It's confusing which one is which with the Kim series of leaders.
Well, no, I meant like in this story. If this story ended
Yeah.
with Dave
Yeah, yeah.
Meltzer being hauled away to a North Korean prison,
Back when you had to buy your wrestling magazines at a store or send away from them on the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
This isn't just about wrestling. Actually, the wrestling is a small portion of it.
Yeah.
What this actually is a story of is brewing international conflict and diplomacy in the most insane way possible. I mean, people talk about how Dennis Rodman going to North Korea. That's like
Right.
doesn't even compare
Yeah.
to the level of insanity that occurred around the Pyongyang International Sports and Culture Festival for Peace.
Collision
So-
in Korea. Calling it Korea, by the way, is really that's one way to put
Yeah,
it.
I feel like that was a thing that was like, oh no, there is no North or South. We're all Korea.
Right.
And we're going to call it Korea. And also, I'm just going to go around and calling everything that's now for peace, like, Woodstock was the festival for peace,
Yeah.
or the collision of music.
Yeah.
Or like,
Collision at Yasgur's, that sort of
Mountain.
If there was a big free-for-all battle royal, Mountain would
Take them
win.
down.
Yeah.
We might have to do a fighting tournament sometime with the bands at Woodstock.
So we're gonna start this story
Ben versus Jerry. Sorry.
back in the 1950s, actually, with a man by the name of Ricky Dozan. And so Ricky Dozan is the father of wrestling in Japan. He's
Okay.
a national hero. Now, he was a former sumo wrestler, but he'd gotten kicked out of his stable and decided to go into professional wrestling. And he was trained by Harold Sakata, Oddjob, from
Whoa.
Dr. No. Yeah.
And you are not allowed to be him on N64.
No, indeed.
That was the rule in my house.
He's also an expert at killing people with hats.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't in Ricky Dozan's arsenal. His finishing move was a karate chop.
Okay.
But he was trained in wrestling, and he became a Japanese national hero because his template was he would face all of the American wrestlers that would come over. This was after World War II. Japan needed something to rebuild.
Yeah.
And it was Ricky Dozan beating the crap out of American guys in Speedos,
Fair.
essentially. Just to give you an idea of how big Ricky Dozan was, he had a tag team match he was tagged with Masahiko Kimura, which is the guy that the Kimura
lock,
was named
yeah.
after. They wrestled the Sharp brothers, who were actually Canadian. And this was in 1954, and it earned a 90 rating televisions. So 90% of televisions in Japan were tuned
Suck
to
it,
this
Mash.
match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was on both broadcast networks, NHK and Nippon TV.
Wow.
And I will say, but to be fair, every wrestler back then was Canadian, right?
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
yeah.
They're all named like Kodiak Dave. Yukon Eric. Yeah. And it was watched they would project it in parks, and thousands of people showed up to see the projections of this match.
Wow.
He had a match in 1957 against Lou Thez for the World Heavyweight Championship, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Got an 87 rating. To put this in perspective, that's the same rating that the moon landing coverage got in the United States. People learn about this in their middle school history classes.
Right.
When Ricky Dozan wrestled Lou Thez
Wow.
for the NWA. Like, that's on your exam. You have to, as a
That's why they
Japanese...
excel, actually, at education over there, because they're informed of the right thing.
If you're a
At the right
Japanese
age.
school child, you have to know about Ricky Dozan to pass Japanese history.
Oh God, do we have a population like a comparison between the two of those? It's okay if we don't, but I'm just like kind of curious because I know
let's
that
see. What year
Japan
was
is
this?
very population dense, but we have like a
Yeah, we have more people. Like, more people actually watch the moon
So
landing,
more
but
people cared-
percentage-wise.
So even no, well, no, and I think that's
Yeah,
even
yeah.
more important. Is like you think of us, we have so much land mass, we have so many people. Japan, very population dense, but like even then,
Yeah.
more of them still, like way more of them cared about that than we cared about the moon.
I always think about, like, you know, when they say like 90% of American households were watching the moon landing. Who are those other 10?
You know what? There were people who were watching it outside of television stores, from what I know from movies.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like random businessmen passing by, like, oh, it's projecting the moon landing.
You should
Right.
have shut it off as soon as they landed, and then charged everybody to come in and watch it.
So Ricky Dozan died in 1963. He was killed by a Yakuza member who
Jesus.
stabbed him with a urine-soaked knife. I don't know what the...
Stabbed the
what's
piss
the
out of him.
Yeah, but what's the purpose of soaking the knife in urine? I still don't know.
Infect him.
No, that's
Stab the piss into
Like, he
him,
would
I
have
guess.
doo-dooed on the knife.
Infect him with piss.
But wouldn't he doo-doo on the knife to make sure that it was...
I mean, that's just disgusting.
Come on, come on.
That's
come
gotta.
on.
It's gotta be like
Have
just
some
like a
class.
It's gotta just be like a ultimate disrespect.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
maybe.
right?
I don't know.
Because pee is sterile. It's
Yeah.
actually, you're doing the guy a favor if you pee on the
That's
knife.
true.
Yeah,
That's true. But so Ricky Dozan was responsible for training a whole generation of Japanese wrestling stars, right? He was a Japanese national hero. But Ricky Dozan had a little secret. Ricky Dozan wasn't Japanese. Ricky Dozan was actually Korean.
Whoa.
And they kept the Korean thing under wraps. He was
No
kicked out of his
shit.
sumo stable due to discrimination against Korean people.
That's messed up.
Right? And he went into wrestling. So he went to the United States and came back ostensibly a new guy.
Whoa.
Right? So he rebirthed himself as being Japanese, and it was kept under wraps. And he was born in modern day North Korea. So he is actually a North Korean national hero.
Still?
Yeah.
No
he is.
shit.
Because Kim Il-sung, who was basically the first, the patriarch of the Kim family, right?
The president, first president of the DPRK.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was a huge wrestling fan. He was actually a huge
Am I going to like
fan.
the Kim family at the end of this podcast?
No,
No, because they become film students later on. And that's
one
when
of them
they
goes to
became
Sweden. It all becomes whack.
they became really evil at that point.
So Ricky Dozan is basically at the head of this. He's the thing that kind of unites Japan and North Korea in this story, right?
Yeah.
This is the thing that actually ties it together, because Japan and North Korea have a lot of tension amongst them. I mean, generally there's tension between Korea and Japan due to various like historical factors,
Wars
right?
and
And colonialism and stuff.
Aren't the Koreans sort of a despised minority in Japan?
Absolutely, yeah.
there was a war too, right?
Yeah, there was a big war.
Yeah, there were several big wars.
Yes,
but, yeah.
indeed. And North Korea there was also tension between North Korea and Japan, because North Korea had a penchant for kidnapping Japanese citizens at random.
Yeah, that'll make people get real cranks at you.
Yeah.
If you're gonna get really cranks at someone, it's gonna be like, hey, like, give me back my mom.
They'll kidnap anybody. I mean, they kidnapped.
Yeah.
What was the warship they kidnapped in like 1969?
Well, there's the. I mean, are you going to get into the director?
Yeah.
That was the famous story. Was there was a movie director that Kim Jong-Il was really fond of, Japanese movie director, and he was kidnapped along with his ex-wife, who was a big movie star, and then they were just forced to make propaganda movies for like 15 years.
Yeah.
I did hear about
And
this.
they escaped because Kim Jong-il was stupid enough to be like, oh, sure, you can attend the Vienna International Film Festival. And then they just ran down an alleyway in Vienna and got away and just ran to the American embassy.
Yeah.
I am going to go ahead and just plug this thing that a friend of mine named Chelsea, who now runs a lot of shows in LA, we used to work for, called Liberty in North Korea, where they would do a lot of stuff with North Korea.
Oh, okay. There's a charity event.
Yeah, and when people would escape from North Korea, they would help them out, and they would do a lot of like outreach and stuff. So I'm gonna just now that I've had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, what this episode of The Goods from the Woods is definitely for sure brought to you by
Liberty in North Korea, aka Link. Yeah, that's a thing that you guys might know Chelsea. Chelsea has worked on a bunch of different shows. And stuff.
Okay.
I won't say her last name because she doesn't work there anymore.
Right.
She's just like a comedian working garbage person like the rest of us. I love you, Chelsea. But yeah, they're a great organization. She worked with them for many years. She loved them. So I'm just gonna take a second to make sure we get that in there.
Yeah.
So there's tension between Japan and North Korea.
Yes.
Somebody needs to fix this. Enter Antonio Inoki.
All right.
So Inoki was trained by Ricky Dozan. And Antonio Inoki, beyond having perfect like Jack Lord hair and the biggest chin you've ever seen.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
He's like if you took a dude and you were like doing those experiments that they were doing to make what's his butt green in
The Hulk.
Street
Blanca.
Fighter
Yeah.
to make Blanca.
Yeah.
Like he looks like one of the in between stages where it's like we're not quite at Blanca yet, but we're getting.
Well, it's
there.
interesting
It
because
was unrealistic, because if you get electrocuted, you do not become a green monster.
well, to
just have to sit down for
to
a
get
little
to
while.
your theory, Antonio Inoki actually grew up in Brazil.
God, we're gonna put this up on our Twitter. We're at The Goods Pod. The chin on this man.
Oh yeah.
Fucking, he could break Jay Leno in half with this chin.
Okay, so Inoki, to call him the Hulk Hogan of Japan would be an understatement. He's like kind of this major league like figure. He's like a celebrity because people thought that he was for real. He was essentially a badass character. His character was that he was the ultimate badass. He would fight like these freaks. They'd bring these kind of freakish guys in. So like Andre the Giant, he would wrestle Andre the Giant a lot. He also wrestled a 7'3" Pakistani kickboxer named Raja Lion, who did not know how to kickbox. Actually, he was a kickboxer that couldn't kickbox. Look up the match that he had with Raja Lion because Raja Lion tried to throw every kick he threw, he tripped. He like fell over, like he was physically unable to do a kick.
It was like Billy Graham's Kung Fu.
Yeah, exactly. But he'd also fought legit fighters, most notably Muhammad Ali. He had a match with Muhammad Ali where him and Muhammad Ali had kind of one of the first, some people say mixed martial arts matches.
And there's a book that just came out.
Yeah,
about the
and it's
subject,
really
right?
good. It's really good. I mean, the match sucks. It's basically...
The match is terrible.
Yeah, like Inoki basically just lays on his back and kicks Muhammad Ali in the legs. Which led to a blood clot that almost led to the loss of one of Muhammad Ali's legs.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And I believe that book, I think you can also probably find it, an audiobook, if you're not into reading.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he also fought a bear in the movie The Strongest Karate 2.
That's my favorite. That is my favorite fact in the entire world. He fought a bear, you guys.
But it's in a movie called The Strongest Karate 2.
I don't care if that's a movie. You can give me whatever kind of kayfabe you want. That nigga fought a bear.
I have to say something. Have y'all ever been to Clark's Trading Post? It's up. You ever hear the Betty and the Barney Hill?
Yeah, it's the one with get out of here, you old goat.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, with the Wolfman.
Yeah, the Wolfman.
They have trained bears there, and bears can work.
Yeah.
So a bear can
Ask
be
Tracy
taught
Smothers,
to shoot a
yeah.
match. Yeah.
Those are working bears.
He also wrestled in what was called an Island Death Match in 1987 with Masa Saito, where they wrestled out for 50 minutes across an entire abandoned island.
I've seen that.
That was still heavily booby-trapped from World War II.
I've seen that. And it's one of the most realistically worked matches I've ever seen.
Why? Why do you think that is? Is it because they might step on a landmine at any moment?
I mean,
Oh, what is that, pudding?
well, no, they're in a ring. They're in a ring. They're in a ring on this
okay.
island, and there's like helicopters and everything around it.
What?
Like filming, and they're having this match in the ring, and it's what I've always used it as an example of what a wrestling match would look like if it was real.
Yeah.
Because it's very realistic, the work in this match.
So, if you haven't really guessed from this kind of this track record, Antonio Inoki's also batshit insane.
Oh, right, yeah, I bet, yeah.
He's also a politician in Japan. He's in their equivalent of the Senate.
Okay.
He was in it for a short time, and he's currently in it. And
So this guy's still alive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The aftermags used to always say that wrestling is so legit in Japan that wrestlers are in their Senate.
Yeah. There's a number of people, even like
And Inoki's come out and busted out and done some stuff lately too. Like he's been in a couple of things in the last couple of years.
okay.
Yeah.
He'll just come out and be like a legend or like a special attraction.
Yeah, he was in the WWE Hall of Fame. They inducted him into that.
No shit.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
right on.
So he took his renegade, completely insane style that he led him into the success in the ring into politics. For example,
that would never work here.
yeah. For example, exactly. In 1990, he did a renegade diplomatic mission to Iraq. Like, he just did it on his own, right? He just like woke up one day and he's like, "There's some hostages in Iraq. Some of them are Japanese. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to free these hostages. I'm going to go to
This is
Iraq."
during Desert Storm.
Right before.
Okay,
right
right.
before.
Oh God.
Inoki, you're only big in the ring.
No. So he goes to Iraq and decides to put on a wrestling show called the Festival of Sports and Peace. That's the theme. I think that's...
Okay.
And the WCW called it the collision in Iraq.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love my sport and I hate my sport.
So he for all intents and purposes, it was reported in Japan that the wrestling diplomacy worked. And the hostages were freed.
I just start taking off my headphones. Okay, bye, guys.
Inoki and Saddam Hussein became close friends, and Inoki secretly converted to Islam.
Wait, was this was what was reported, or this happened?
This is what was reported.
Okay.
We'll get to that later.
Oh my God.
Inoki also he had a lot of connections with dictators. He befriended Fidel Castro, and while he was in Cuba on a visit, purchased an abandoned island off the coast of Cuba and named it Inoki Friendship Island.
And he had a match there that's really
And
well
WCW called it. Okay, fine.
Yeah, collision.
Collision on Inoki Friendship Island. Bash at Inoki Beach.
Bash at Inoki Beach. There it is.
Collision in the Cold War.
Yeah. So Inoki, he was in the House of Counselors, and there was a scandal in 1993 that sent him into a tailspin. It was a complete scandal, and it basically almost he
They
was
found out wrestling was fake.
well close. So there was a scandal that came out that
Collision in kayfabe.
was that Inoki apparently hadn't paid his taxes for 10 years.
Oh, well.
And also had severely overestimated his role in the freeing of the hostages in Iraq.
Okay, well, those are just the real parts of wrestling.
Yeah, the same thing happened to Willie Nelson.
Well, it almost led him to be impeached from their Senate
Why?
because this was like a huge scandal. This is Japan, y'all.
I know.
I know.
It's not even Japan. That's like what it used to take back then was lying.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I mean,
Just
it was
being a piece of shit.
This
not paying your
scandal.
taxes.
This scandal was to such a degree that TV Asahi refused to broadcast any of his matches for years. Like, that's how bad his image was. Like, so this guy is like, it's essentially, he was erased much like Hulk Hogan was erased for.
Or Chris Benoit.
Yeah, I mean, this was
probably
a level
closer to
of, this was a level
somewhere
of
in between Hogan and Benoit.
Yeah. So
Its own level. It's the Inoki level.
it's the Inoki level.
of shame.
And he lost his bid for re-election,
Okay.
right? So
I'd have voted for him.
Yeah, his political career is in the shitter, right? He people doubt him and his Iraq claims.
Yeah.
Right? The efficacy of his wrestling diplomacy. Kim Il-sung has died. He sees an opportunity.
Ooh.
So guess what? The return of the Festival of Sports and Peace.
Return to the Festival of Sports and Peace. There it is. Return to the Festival of Peace.
'Cause this
hey, return to the Festival of Peace.
Because he knows
Once again.
that he knows this is what's gonna this helped him before, right? This is the thing that put him on the political map in Japan.
Yeah.
If he could succeed at that, he could erase this complete scandal,
Right.
and he could return to his position. So, and previously, Kim Il-sung actually had invited him to have a wrestling event in Korea, but he had died.
Yeah.
And Kim Jong-Il was in power, right? And he was new, and he needed festivals. Because that's a big thing in North Korea is festivals.
It's very similar to Rome. When an emperor ascended in Rome,
Yeah.
it would be
Yep.
it'd be games, like months and months of games.
So this became part of a series of festivals in order to legitimize Kim Jong-il.
Can I go in my little Kim
Yeah,
Jong-il
absolutely.
cul-de-sac?
Ooh.
This shit is some of my favorite things ever.
Bananas, Bananas.
Kim Jong-il, supreme leader of the DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. This is his official bio. He was born February 16th, 1941, on top of Mount Pictou, which is the sacred mountain of the revolution.
Right.
Legend has it that at his birth, a double rainbow shot across the sky and a glowing new star appeared in the heavens to herald the birth.
Did it go viral? A double rainbow. I've never seen.
He's just crying because there's a dictator being born. Official records reportedly show that Kim learned to walk at the age of 3 weeks.
This guy's more full of shit than a Noki.
I know. They're perfect for each other. He was talking at 8 weeks, and
Yeah.
while attending Kim Il-sung University, a.k.a. Dad University, he apparently wrote 1,500 books over a period of 3 years, along with 6 full operas.
Look, I wrote books when I was 6 too.
And you fold them in half and you staple them?
Yeah, and they were mostly about how, ooh, what would happen if you woke up and you were inside Mario Brothers?
Is cocaine involved in any of this?
I bet so. Let's see. According to his official biography, all of his operas are, quote, better than any in the history of music.
Yeah.
So, suck it, Mozart.
Yeah.
Then there's
Sure.
his sporting prowess. In 1994, Pyongyang media reported that the first time Kim picked up a golf club, he shot a 38 under par on North Korea's only golf course, including 11 holes in
Yeah, I was about
Okay,
to
all
say
right, I'm
that,
going to
yeah.
say this. I ain't never been to North Korea's only golf course, but it can happen.
Reports say that each of his 17 bodyguards verified this, and he decided to then retire from the sport forever, having proved.
Yo, leave on top. I get it.
I get it. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard, but I have taped 110 amazing specials for HBO. I haven't released any of them because I just wouldn't want you guys to feel like bad.
Yeah.
And now I just go online and talk about movies and wrestling all day because I have to leave something for someone.
Yeah. I have 2 more facts, and both of them are
I
fucking...
wanted to take up golf, but there's no point now.
Both of these things are just... I love these things so much. This is from CBS.com, by the way. German media reported in 2007 that Kim hoped to solve the famine in his country by breeding gigantic rabbits. A German farmer who bred rabbits the size of dogs was apparently asked by North Korea to help set up a big bunny farm to alleviate food shortages. To get things going, he sent a batch of 12 gigantic rabbits to North Korea, but was shocked to hear they were then eaten at Kim's birthday party that year. So they sent him 12 rabbits to do what rabbits do, and that is fuck like rabbits.
And they didn't even get to fuck.
They didn't even get to fuck.
That's the worst part. You send them to a party, you don't let them guys fuck.
12 rabbits is more than enough to start a huge
why
population.
rabbits, though, as a solution to food?
Well,
Because
get
they
more out of
fuck.
they
Cow.
they
Yeah.
breed really quickly. So you double. I mean, if you have 12 rabbits, you're gonna be doubling that population really quickly. And if they're gigantic,
It took no time. Just let them rabbits fuck. And they were like, nah.
Last fact, it is also claimed he did not poop.
I get it. I don't
Yeah.
I don't poop.
But there's a book that says that everybody.
I know.
Everybody poops, asterisks, except Kim Jong-Il and Danielle Radford.
And Danielle Radford. Yeah.
My 2 favorite Kim Jong-il things is he had apparently had over 2 million VHS taped movies.
Whoa.
'Cause
Well,
he was
that
a
can
film
happen
buff.
too. I'm not going to say
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
done it personally, but I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. Which I
like
didn't
the
even know
golf.
there was 2 million movies.
Oh, I've been to Vidiots before they closed. There's 2 million.
Also, my
Oh,
favorite.
rest in peace, videos.
I know.
My favorite thing is that he claimed, in order to show his prowess, that he claimed that he was an internet expert. Which sounds like some shit you'd throw on your resume to pad it, where it's like skills, Microsoft Word.
Excel.
It's literally what all of our parents call us.
Right.
You know that Ryan, he's an internet expert.
Right.
So next time he comes home, you just let him come in.
Oh yeah, he can set up your Roku. It's fine. He's an internet expert.
You got a router? Ryan will set up your router.
So Antonio Inoki, he's set on doing this thing, but he needs not just wrestling, he needs celebrities. So he wanted to get Muhammad Ali, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to get Muhammad Ali, but he didn't know Muhammad Ali. Even though he knew him, but he didn't know how to get into contact with him.
They'd
And
already
there was-
had their fight.
Yeah, and there was like...
and he might be a little pissed that he gave him blood clots.
Yeah, and almost like, made him lose a leg.
Yeah.
So
Well,
he...
Muhammad Ali at that point had bigger problems.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
But, still salty about the blood clots,
Yeah.
one can assume.
So Antonio Inoki called his friend Eric Bischoff to get into contact with...
He knows all the dictators of the world.
Ali, to get in touch with Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali had just done some events for WCW. Yeah.
No, but you're right. He had.
He knows he's part of the New World Order. So that's what the story goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy E'll make the call, dude.
Easy.
Because Muhammad Ali had done some stuff with WCW with like Hogan coming in and stuff like that. So he decided to jump on board. He was like, this sounds like a great opportunity. So Bischoff kind of weasels his way into this and gets Inoki in touch with Muhammad Ali. Also, Inoki needed somebody to wrestle. So initially he wanted to get Hulk Hogan because he had a long stand. He actually, early in Hulk Hogan's career, Hulk Hogan wrestled in Japan and had a series of matches with Antonio Inoki. He was a huge star. Like Hogan was a huge star in Japan.
Yeah.
And it would rekindle a great feud that was.
I just put something together, by the way, if we could back up for just a second.
Yeah.
Is Bischoff the connection between the Kim family and Rodman? Is that how they fucking knew each
No.
other? Okay.
No, not at all.
I was just thinking there's some
It's
world.
not that easy.
There's some world where Dennis Rodman called Hulk Hogan and was like, hey, can I get the Kim family's number?
Well, you know something, dude. The problem is, man.
Easy has that number, not me. Amigo.
The problem is, man. That was on my Palm Pilot, dude. And it got seized in Discovery in the Gawker case, man. But Hulk was not down because
I'm not jobbing to Kim Jong. Some commie dude. And that's true because he should not go over there
and do the job.
and do the job because Hulk Hogan fights commies. He doesn't
Yeah.
go over there and help them legitimize their reign.
So Hulk wasn't down. The next best guess was Ric Flair. And after some reservations, Ric Flair was down.
Because he'll job to anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Allegedly, Jimmy Carter and Ted Turner were going to go along too, but they bailed. So it's just, the wrestlers, Muhammad Ali, Ric Flair, Eric Bischoff.
Oh, no, wasn't wasn't Ted Turner married to Jane Fonda?
Yes.
So if Jane Fonda is saying you should not go over
Yeah,
to that
this
country.
seems like a bad idea.
Hey, so you remember that time that I went to Vietnam? So you know this time you went
So they brought along a lot of New Japan wrestling stars, but they brought a motley crew of American gaijin wrestlers that wrestled in New Japan widely and were under contract with WCW, which included Too Cold Scorpio,
Okay. Love it.
Road Warrior Hawk,
Love it.
Oh boy.
Scott Norton,
Okay.
who's the star of this whole show.
The only time he's ever been the star of anything.
Chris Benoit.
I'm sorry, who?
Chris, he who should not be.
I'm sorry. I just hear every time you say that. I just hear wah 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 wah.
We'll bleep it out when this airs.
Yeah.
So,
This isn't even the worst thing he's ever been involved with.
and the greatest tag team of all time, the Steiner brothers.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Fuck
Rick
yes.
and Scott.
Look, because if you need to get the hell out of North Korea, Who the hell do you want with your back? The Steiner brothers.
Well, you got Scott Norton with you. I mean, Scott Norton, this guy was a national arm wrestling champion. I did the championship thing like Scott Steiner. He was a national arm wrestling champion. He won a contest to be in the movie Over the Top. Based on his arm wrestling.
Was he the guy when I'm a truck?
No, he wasn't that guy. He was originally going to be that guy. But for some reason, like, Stallone decided to get the other guy.
Bald guy. Second sucks.
Yeah. So Scott Norton
was badass.
Scott Norton had he basically is 350 pounds, all chest. Like, look him up. Look up Scott Flash Norton.
Yeah.
Well, look, no one did leg day back then. So I don't want to like shame him for not.
I mean,
doing
we
leg day,
know him
'cause-
as NWO B Team Scott Norton,
Right.
But he was the New Japan World Champion. He was like a big and look at this dude. He is.
Oh wow, yeah, he's like 90% chest.
Yeah, like really well respected. Like a lot of the American wrestlers, like really respected him a lot.
He looks like an upside down triangle.
Like,
So he's one of them Haku type guys.
yeah, he's kind of got a Haku vibe.
He's
to
not
him.
as big like a draw, but when it comes to being legit, he's number one kind of guy.
Yeah, and he was Ichiban Gaiji #1 in Japan for a long time.
Okay.
Right? So Eric Bischoff decides to get involved in this and bring these wrestlers, but he really didn't get permission from his bosses at Turner or the State Department.
Of course, of the State Department. Wait, he did not clear this with the government.
No, not at all.
He just went rogue. He
No,
went
he's
Bischoff.
Bischoff. He's fine.
Yeah, he's Eazy-E.
Well, it's NWO, man. New World Order.
It's NWO business.
Brought to you by the NWO.
I don't know why Bill Clinton needs to be involved at all.
Yeah. So Eric Bischoff, and this is from an oral history that was published by Sports Illustrated in 2015. I actually got a number of sources. So I drew from like Foreign Policy magazine, the New York Times, a lot of Sports Illustrated, a lot of vaunted the Wrestling Observer newsletter.
Oh yeah, of course. Only,
This show has
Shoot
footnotes.
interviews
only
from
the best.
podcasts I've never heard of. This is deep. So Eric Bischoff said, quote, I didn't think too much about it. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't ask anybody at Turner Broadcasting before I left. I had friends that worked at CNN in the news division. I thought, I'm just going to pick their brains to make sure I don't end up in jail.
I was gonna say this seems like light treason.
I asked them flat out, what would happen if I go over there without permission from the government and bring 15 very high-profile celebrities with me? They said, the State Department may detain you.
Yeah.
They might make you sit in a room and answer a bunch of questions, but they might make your life uncomfortable or miserable as some kind of slap on the wrist for doing something you shouldn't have done, but they're not going to put you in jail. I said,
We're
great.
rich. Oh, sorry. They didn't actually say that. That was my aside.
right. So he's
Well, that was Bishop. He got the dollar signs in his eye.
Yeah,
he's
got trillionaire Ted behind him.
his
He's got the
approach.
money, brother.
His approach to potentially causing an international
Yeah.
incident is it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
He said,
That sounds fun. I can't even cause a national incident. I can't cause a city. I can't do anything on this block.
so they head over, right? They flew on a flight whose quality was best summed up by Scott Norton.
Oh boy.
Scott Norton said, quote, this thing, the plane, looked like it flew in World War II, man. It was a mess, old and rickety. It was just a heap. We tried to order a beer, and they gave everybody a different kinds of beer, and they were all hot. Nothing was refrigerated. The flight was terrible.
I'm sorry. I was trying to order beer on this flight to a country that's been shut off from the rest of the world for like a lot of decades, and my beer was hot. Where is your manager?
I think you-
Oh, they're dead?
Danielle, you need to read the Scott Norton lines from now on in that voice, please.
Feel free.
I will.
We got
Give
some
me-
play acting soon. So they landed. They were given handlers. The government seized their passports. All the wrestlers'
Kim
passports.
Jong-Il, you are being an asshole right now.
Oh my god! Like I'm just like trying to come in like wrestle. 'Cause I'm like a wrestle person. And I'm like super good at my job.
Wrestle person.
So they got off the plane. They were all given handlers. The government in North Korea seized their passports, and they were taken on an official tour.
shit.
At this point, Ric Flair started to get increasingly more freaked out,
Why?
which just
They couldn't get a
escalated
drink.
Okay, hold on.
throughout.
Yeah. I'm gonna do. Here's my impersonation of Ric Flair freaking out. Woo.
Hey, I think something funny's going on.
This
Woo.
beer is near beer. And near beer is no beer at all.
As long as they serve kamikazes in this country, woo, I'm down to party. Where's the Marriott? I need a Marriott and I'll party.
We stayed at the Marriott in Pyongyang. Your shoes cost more than your neighbor.
Was he able to get in any of his robes? I feel like that's were they confiscated?
This event is on YouTube. This event is on there. It's not on the WWE network, but it is on
Why?
YouTube. And
It
Ric
never
Flair-
will be, and I don't think you can find it
There's
on
certain
like,
ones. There's certain ones like when Worlds Collide, WCW when Worlds Collide, the one with the lucha one that's like awesome.
They should have called this one World.
Yeah.
So they were taken on the tour. They went around. Everybody was kind of confused as to what was going on. On the way back to the hotel, Bischoff, who was traveling in the limo with his friend Sonny Ono.
What was that? Sonny, the guy with Cher, right?
No, this was the guy that sued WCW for a massive racial discrimination lawsuit.
Ranger Ross, that guy.
Yeah, I think Ranger Ross was part of it. A few other people, Hard Work Bobby Walker, but they were given an order by their handlers. Quote, we were on the ride back to the hotel, and there was one last moment. This is nuts. Our handler was in the car with Sonny and I, and she said something to the effect of, I must tell you, this is not America. And I said, please explain. She goes, you must not touch our women. And I said, excuse me?
Oh my God.
She goes, you must leave our women alone.
This is the oldest
is-
trope ever. This is like, you can sleep in the barn as long as you don't touch my daughter.
This is like the plot of the R. Kelly download video.
But like also, like this is the only part of the story I've enjoyed so far.
Yeah. So
Please,
this
please
is
don't touch our women. Please. Why didn't you bring your wives? Please, Ric Flair. Please don't get your Swarovski crystals all over our women.
all these
And they're
muscular
right.
dudes.
Look,
Yeah.
look.
This is a
She's right.
yeah.
Keep Ric Flair away from your fertile women.
Right. Yeah.
So
So they don't want, because
they don't want. So that's the rule. They cannot touch the women,
and they mean it.
they mean it.
This
And we
is
will.
some kind of
And
subtle
here
thing.
Charlotte,
soon there will be.
Korean Charlotte.
This will raise its head. This will be an important. This will be the first potential international incident. It surrounds this.
This is
Yeah. So the wrestlers had
There's
trouble.
several over the
Okay,
course
so the
of this.
wrestlers had trouble adjusting. They had to wear suits all the time. Too Cold
It's
Scorpio.
like working for Vince McMahon.
Yeah, Too Cold Scorpio specifically complained that he couldn't wear a Zubaz.
I would have thought it was Hawk that complained.
I know. The television, they were weirded out by what was on television.
I've heard the soap operas are really good.
They were confined to their hotel rooms, and the food was a bit of a struggle for the American wrestlers, which was best summed up by Scott Steiner, who said, who wants to take this or should
yeah, I think you get the
Okay.
Scott Steiner for sure.
right.
You've got the best impression of him.
They tried to treat us right, but the food was fucking terrible. The only thing that we had to eat that I could really stand was the fruit. It's a good thing I brought my own tuna fish.
So he showed up with a duffel bag full of tuna.
Customs didn't seize that. The
I
State
guess
Department
if it's canned,
That's what I think.
I
but
mean,
it's-
this wasn't Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner. This was still like Scotty Steiner with a mullet.
Sir,
but
are you
yeah.
smuggling Starkist into North Korea?
dolphin safe, my dude.
Sorry,
Well,
Charlie.
Excuse me, is chicken of the sea, is that chicken or fish?
Is this chicken or fish that I'm having? Scott, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what? Is this chicken?
so damn confusing? Confusion on a damn can. I'm hungry.
Goddamn Dixie.
So I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So Scott was the first one to almost get the gang into trouble.
Oh, boy.
And this was done during the kind of gala event, the big dinner at the North Korean Capitol building. And this is where the play.
Where are all the
acting-
chicken fingers?
This is where the play acting occurs. So,
tuna fish?
Danielle, you are Scott Norton.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I
Who
am.
wants to be Rick Steiner?
I guess I'll be Rick Steiner.
You're the dog-faced gremlin with us.
Good night. Do you want to be Scott or should I?
You should
Scott?
be Scott.
Okay.
yeah.
Let's be like the Eagles and maximize everybody's
Okay.
All right.
role.
So let's go.
All right.
This is from the Sports Illustrated oral history.
Okay.
We got to go to their Capitol building. The only super good dinner we had there, it was like a hell of a floor show. They entertained you, dance shows. They had like 24 women doing this dance show to Korean music.
It was kind of their traditional dance and performance.
Wow, you don't sound like Rick Steiner at all.
You want me to take Rick?
Yeah. You do Rick.
Rick is our,
That would be amazing if Rick Steiner sounded like that.
Let's be fair.
The dog-faced gremlin where he was just like, well,
That's what I was trying to go for. He was kind of a traditional dance in performance.
That's fantastic.
I guess showing us that kind of a Broadway play. No, it was kind of their traditional dance and performance, and I guess showing us kind of like a Broadway play or something, just to give us some entertainment for the night.
They would change into different outfits right before your eyes. They were on top of things when it came to that. They did very, very well. Scotty wanted to see how all of these girls were changing.
You know how Katy Perry changed during the Super Bowl? But we're talking to like 30 people, and they could change their outfits right away. Being me, I just wanted to see.
Gross. Sorry, that's just Danielle. Gross.
He sounds like Yogi Bear when he rhymes at the end of that thing.
Scotty was jacked. I just gotta see it. I just gotta see how they're like changing their clothes like this. He couldn't figure it out. Wait, hold on. This nigga couldn't figure out how clothes worked. Okay, whatever. Nobody could. He said, it's the lights. They're shooting different color lights. But I says, their skin like stays the same color? And he said, hey, you're right. He just couldn't stand it. If you ever want a time to not be curious, man, he's in the Capitol building trying to sneak around. And again, Danielle Radford. Gross.
Oh, Jesus. My brother was quite inquisitive.
That's a word.
If there was something he couldn't figure it out, he was going to find out how they were doing it.
So the knucklehead went backstage.
Yeah, they didn't want no part of that. They shook their finger at me like, go. So I just turned around and walked away. I wasn't scared.
Man, they got him. They escorted him back to the table. I said, Scotty, these dudes are for real.
and scene.
Wow. Okay.
I feel like no one's ever done a better Norton than I just did.
No, that was amazing. The thing he's talking about was on this season of America's Got Talent, where there'd be two people dancing and the lady has an extra long dress, and then when they do the spins, the guy picks up the back of the dress and they fling it around, and then she's wearing something different. And it is crazy impressive, but it's funny that this is like a standard thing in like North Korean sort of like state-run presentations. Is like, I don't know if they invented it or whatever.
It's like Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful, gorgeous presentation, and fucking keep your fucking stupid chainmail out of the goddamn locker room, you monster! You monster!
I think he just wanted to know.
Yeah, he was curious.
Oh, no, he did.
Everybody wants to know how they change. I do.
I will say this. All of those guys, a lot of them, I'm sure, are pieces of shit and dirtbags.
Yeah.
But as performers, I wouldn't doubt if he was like, well, I go to a locker room and they go to a locker room and all of us share locker rooms together. So maybe I can go to their locker room and ask them how they do it.
And I can, I actually,
but also like you should like not if it's ever a segregated locker room, like don't. And if you're in North Korea,
don't fuck around.
Like super.
And I mean, this was like a thing where Scott
Well, when
Steiner.
you skip the State Department, they can't tell you what you can and can't do. Get over that.
But no, they've been told. So Scott,
you're behind enemy lines.
So Scott Steiner is like he's generally curious. He wants to know how it's being done.
You know
right? It's
why?
like he's into the magic sort of element
I
of
think
it.
he wants to incorporate it into his ring.
I think he does too.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those things where I'm like, I'm at Disneyland and I want to see how the Hall of fucking Presidents work.
Right.
And you're not going to stop me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to go inside these teacups.
Yeah, I know. Have you seen their like singlets, the designs they had? They were into looking like really flashy and whatnot. So but they were warned about that. So the North Koreans were hyper vigilant about this sort of thing. Scott Steiner, curious, his curiosity in trying to figure out this thing gave off the wrong impression. He almost got arrested.
Well, you know what they say. The curiosity gave the cat a new ring entrance.
Well, here's the thing. This wasn't the only time that shit almost got real.
Oh, God.
For example, during a bus ride after Scorpio made a wisecrack at Ric Flair's expense, Road Warrior Hawk got deeply offended and called Scorpio a very high-level racial slur.
Oh, I can figure out a couple that he could have said. I wish I didn't know that about
The
Road
worst
Warrior
one.
Hawk.
Well, he was probably massively drunk.
Yeah, it's a heated gaming moment where you just say the N-word.
So
Sorry, that's a YouTube reference.
And Scorpio Scorp commenced to kicking Hawk's ass on the bus.
Hell yeah!
Yeah,
Sweet.
As Scott Steiner recalled,
Scorpio did a number on him, man. I didn't know what Hawk was thinking. He grabbed Scorpio, both hands on his chest, and Scorpio started punching. Hawk kept his hands on his chest. Shit, Scorpio must have punched him like 10 times, but the bus stopped, and you could tell the Japanese representative was real freaked out. Freaked out. Because the North Korean guy was on there too, and they were wondering what the hell was going on.
so it escalated to a point where there was almost things that could have been passably. Nobody was detained, right?
Yeah. Yet.
But things changed, and it was our friend Scott Flash Norton.
Okay.
So Scott Norton, because it was so difficult to call out of North Korea, it was expensive, and calling out of North Korea isn't really feasible.
Yeah.
He was having trouble calling his wife and checking in at home. And his wife was under the impression that Scott Norton, when he was wrestling out in Japan, they would go out and party all the time, right?
Yeah.
And she thought that wrestling in North Korea, same old thing, going out to Roppongi, drinking, all this sort of stuff.
Smoking American cigarettes and drinking hot sake.
So Scott Norton finally got a hold of his wife, and his wife gave him the business about not calling. She basically was like, why aren't you calling me? You're out there drinking with your friends. You're out there partying. And he goes, honey, you don't understand. This place is a shithole.
I am in a oppressive state right now.
I'm like, it's like really hard to go out. They don't have any beer. It's all hot.
No, so he basically said, this place sucks. It's a total shithole. And then the line went dead.
Yeah, because they're listening all the time.
Roughly a minute later, a man accompanied by armed military police was at Scott's door to detain him.
Like, oh my God.
What'd I do?
He was interrogated by the police because this was a big, talking trash about North Korea in North Korea is something that'll put you in a work camp. Right, this is like a big thing, and
that's the only thing. It's a
It's the only thing.
So Scott Norton was like frustrated because he was like trying to explain to his explain to his wife.
Yeah, you just
he's during the interview, interrogation, he's trying to explain to these North Koreans how marital disagreements worked, but the North Koreans didn't understand because in their Marxist utopias, their wives did not argue with them.
Right.
I don't like when I say shithole. I don't mean shithole. I just mean that my wife expects that I'm out fucking crushing puss, and you guys don't have push for me to crush. What are those handcuffs?
It's nothing against you guys. Just your country's bad. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna fucking say it.
So. Scott Norton Scott Norton was really close to being arrested, for real, actually put an international conflict where they would have to bring
they'd have to
bring Jesse Jackson.
Jimmy Carter would have to go. Yeah,
but he
or
was
the Hulkster maybe.
Yeah, he was
I'm putting on the red and yellow one more time, brother.
I'm freeing my friend Scott Flash Norton, my NWA buddy.
Friends, you hurt my pride, dude.
So he was let go, but it wasn't all bad, right? Because during the visit,
bad do you shit your pants?
During the visit, wrestler Kensuke Sasaki met women's wrestler Akira Hokuto for the first time. Later on, the day they met, they were engaged to be married. It was love at first sight.
Wow.
And the wrestlers, according to a number of reports, and most recently mentioned by Dave Meltzer in a recent edition of Wrestling Observer, a number of the wrestlers complained because they couldn't get any sleep due to the sounds of Kensuke Sasaki and Akira Hokuto's lovemaking.
Oh, yeah. Come on, Hokuto. What about love? What about love?
Yeah.
So at least they enjoyed the trip.
I guess it was they basically packed in a years worth of a relationship in one day.
It was a honeymoon in North Korea.
Yeah, it is a trauma bomb.
Yeah,
where it's
sure.
Where they were just all the courtship's done in a day, all the sex that was supposed to be done in the courtship, we're getting it done this day.
I imagine it's Speed with if you start a relationship.
Literally about to say Speed. I was just imagining Keanu and Sandra Bullock.
If you start a relationship.
Yeah. So
Statistically, relationships built on trauma don't last.
Kensuke Sasaki and Akira Hokuto still married to this day.
Wow.
Oh, that's hot.
Yeah.
Fuck
They-
you, Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And I bet they've never had hotter sex.
Yeah.
than,
Oh
like,
God. Like
North
Korea?
Korean.
Eric Bischoff.
No, dude, North Korean fucking under siege. We might die tomorrow sex. Oh.
And Scott Norton is almost getting arrested in the roof next door. Oh.
Scott Norton, who like
hear him-
Kensuke Sasaki's like, I got a program with this guy, man, right now.
You hear Scott Norton begging for his freedom in the next
Like,
room.
oh my God. And then she looks at me, she's like, oh my God. Yeah, nah, that's fucking hot.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff complained that he couldn't get any sleep. He wasn't even neighboring them. They were on the same floor.
That's the hottest thing I've heard in my
Yeah.
entire
They're just
life.
having sex on like the waiter cart outside.
But come on, like two wrestlers just met with all of the stamina and adrenaline that wrestlers have.
Yeah, well, and also
And Akira Hokuto was a daredevil wrestler. Kind of,
He's a daredevil sexual adventurer too, apparently.
well, and you got to imagine these are both Japanese wrestlers, correct?
Yes.
So they're in North Korea. They're in essentially hostile territory.
And they got to get it in now because by the time they're 26, they retire.
Yeah, they could be kidnapped to start the North Korean Wrestling Federation.
Yeah, so you gotta get your shit in.
Oh, imagine what it's like to fuck like there's no tomorrow when you're built like a fucking Japanese wrestler. Just fucking wrestlers versus Joe.
Oh man, yeah, it's like you were trained like a Spartan.
Yeah,
you went through all that young boy training.
Take
like
this, Sting.
Yeah.
The singer Sting.
Oh my God, she just slaps him in the face. Is like, take this, young boy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so hot.
So the show is not as exciting, but so it was held at Mayday Stadium, right, which has a capacity of 190,000 people. It's the largest stadium, arguably, in the world. It is the largest stadium in the world. It's used primarily for their mass games, which is a yearly festival where they have it's basically Cirque du Soleil.
Okay.
They have a big Cirque du Soleil where it's 190,000 people. The national soccer team plays there. They also occasionally have public executions there.
Well, like the Coliseum.
Yeah. So, in particular, there were a number of individuals that were found guilty of conspiring to kill Kim Jong-Il, and they were publicly burned before an attendance of 190,000 people.
Christ.
Yikes.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
Jesus.
And it was also the venue.
Plug that nonprofit one more time.
So that's Liberty in North Korea. That is a link. You can look them up online. Liberty in North Korea.
Because this place is a shithole, honey.
Hi, I'm Scott Norton for Liberty in North Korea. This place sucks.
I'm like, hi, I'm Scott Norton for Liberty in North Korea. It's like a bunch of people are banging, and my wife is like all mad at me.
It's like if you
But no,
manage,
seriously, link Liberty in North Korea.
Yeah.
Go, give them money. Go.
If you manage to escape, we will help you.
So the
Hold on, is
first
that State Department approved? Or are we doing an Inoki here?
So the first match was main evented by IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, so the New Japan World Heavyweight Champion Shinya Hashimoto, and he wrestled. Shinya Hashimoto basically looks like a Japanese jelly donut Elvis. Like he's got the sideburns and all that stuff. Wrestling Scott Norton.
But he's got his long sideburns and his hair. Never mind.
The second show was main evented by the first ever meeting, the first ever match between Ric Flair and Antonio Inoki.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
But it was the same match Flair
here's
always
the thing,
does.
though. Everybody in North Korea did not know what professional wrestling was.
Yeah, I was about
They
to
had
ask.
no idea.
I was about to ask that. Like, they're not, because you notice there's no local talent on the bill. So clearly.
So it's all a shoot to them.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They're going to work themselves into a shoot, Marks.
Kim Jong-Il
Marks, M-A-R-X.
Kim Jong-Il single-handedly eliminated all 29 guys in the 1998 Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
He's like Nero when you think
So
about it.
nobody knew what professional wrestling was, and everybody there in the attendance was gobsmacked. A number of the wrestlers commented that it was the largest crowd they'd wrestled in front of, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was completely silent. So they were in a stadium of 165,000 people and wrestling to almost complete silence.
And it's like, if you ever you watch Japanese wrestling, especially older Japanese wrestling, and you watch Japanese baseball, and everyone's like, they're a little quiet because like they're more respectful than us because we're fucking pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Like you've seen us, like fucking the Bills fans throwing themselves through tables, like we're garbage.
Oh yeah.
So like we talk about how respectful the Japanese fans are because they can be more reserved, which basically just means they're not pieces of shit like we are. I can't imagine how far from pieces of shit the North Korean fans are.
Yeah.
Well,
they have to be respectful at gunpoint.
Well, Dave Meltzer reported that that there were some paid attendance there, but most of the people were obliged to go. So they were obliged.
So it was
to go
heavily papered because it was a WCW.
Indeed.
Just saying.
There were only two. There were only.
It's true.
Well,
All you had to do was show up outside of damn Nitro and you could get in.
Fuck. That's so
nobody
funny.
I can ask a quick question. How many people live in North Korea?
I would say probably about 30 million people.
Okay, then
I
how
would
come
say.
they are not all at least with a better standard of living? Because the amount of people they have working at these public entertainments must be a good chunk of the country's population.
Oh, it
Food.
is.
It's food.
They have entire towns that are just for the purposes of propaganda. That was one of
Yeah.
the things
Yeah.
I read was they built a town.
Pyongyang is basically that.
Well, Pyongyang
Yeah.
is that, but they built a town that's called the Peace Village.
Yep.
That's in sight of the DMZ, so that the people of South Korea who are like guarding the wall, like the fence at the demilitarized zone, can look over and see this supposedly functioning Marxist utopia.
Yeah, and so when like Vice and other places come over, like that's one of the places they take them aside from Pyongyang is like they take them over to.
It's essentially the Warner Brothers lot. It's a totally fake
or even
town.
like I would go. this
Why
is
don't they
bad. I'm
just
gonna
make
get
the
in
whole
trouble.
country fake like that?
They try.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in trouble, but it's like Disney, where it's like everyone's wearing like it's they're
Yeah.
like,
I mean-
was thinking
like
that
you're goofy, except you're like a woman who's a person
Yeah,
who has
yeah.
to pretend like everything's
Well,
a
yeah.
theme
it
park and
sounds like
amazing.
to make it like in its own way, almost like a theme park where it's made to
Yep.
resemble on the facade like a town or something.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
but it's this play act.
Pyongyang. Oh,
What's
yeah.
crazy is they put on like this big show because the whole point is for the guards of the DMZ to be able to just physically, just with their own eyes, see this. So it's people going about their day, but in the biggest way possible because they're playing to the back of the house, which is the wall, like a mile away.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough or come from the right family, there's like a lot of different dynamics. And I'm sure I'm fucking this up.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot of different dynamics.
Party loyalty, a lot of party.
And so you
Yeah.
get to go and essentially be one of these and you are going about your day, but at the same time you do it, you're going about your day as though your day is our town. And
Right,
like,
right.
Most people, a large portion of people in North Korea are like subsistence farmers or
Yep.
poorly paid. But like Pyongyang, for example, they have like 7 highways that are like 7 lanes on each side that are essentially empty. Like Rick Steiner actually mentions this in the Sports Illustrated thing, that he was just like, the first thing that struck him was that there was a highway that's like, like the thoroughfare, like almost like in Atlanta where they have that massive meeting of 75 and 85, where it's just like all these lanes on each side that typically are congested, right? And he went down one of these things and they were the only car.
Yeah.
There were people on bicycles, but they were the only car. The tallest building in North Korea was a hotel that for a long time stood vacant.
Yep.
And
That's still vacant, is it
yeah, it
not?
was uncompleted on the inside.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
it's the largest hotel on earth,
I
actually.
think they could just house everybody. I mean, if they're going to make half the country a fake thing, why not just pay everybody to be our town?
because everybody else has to like grow whatever
Sorghum
food
and
and
yeah.
everything
Cabbage
else.
and- yeah.
For like if you to be our town, you have to be part of like God, I guess like us and celebrities.
Yeah.
Like to be our town, like you have to be a part of that exalted.
You have to be
elite-
in the like a party elite, essentially.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's a reward.
so it's
for-
all who you know. It's like getting a job
Yeah.
at the post office or something.
Or in sanitation in New York. Yeah.
The population of North Korea, by the way, in 1995 was 22 million.
Oh, okay. So I was off.
So they were still recovering from the famine, or
I think this was around the time of the famine.
This would have been
Okay.
right in the middle of it.
So
just in a little bit.
they
of
only
important
they were
history stuff.
silent, but they only responded to 2 matches. The first match that they responded to, and this match whipped the crowd into a frenzy. It was the women's match.
Okay.
Between Bull Nakano and Akira Hokuto on one tag team, and Manami Toyota and Mariko Yoshida on the other team.
I'm just gonna interrupt and say that Bull Nakano touched me like 2 months ago.
What?
And I've never recovered.
Where was this?
I went to go see Rise. Rise.
No
They
shit.
did like a show a couple months ago, and Bull Nakano was there, and she brushed against my shoulder like twice, and then I died, and I'm dead now, and I'm not here.
Wow.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that it wasn't just the wrestling, but like Manami Toyota is kind of a conventional like Japanese pretty. That was kind of her image, like the
Yep.
conventional pretty girl. But Bull Nakano and Akira Hokuto look like they come from another planet, essentially. Like Bull Nakano, like she had long hair that she would basically gel all the way up into like a big Ed Grimley.
And she would
Whoa.
like paint these like lightning bolts all over her face. She's one of the most famed and amazing. She was fucking buff, amazing Joshi wrestlers like
Yeah.
ever. And she's still doing like pro right now. She's doing a thing against Medusa, and I'm hoping they show up to the Royal Rumble. Okay, I'll shut up. Okay, bye.
Yeah, and I'm
really hoping they show up to the Royal
Akira
Rumble.
Why the hell,
Hokuto,
dude? That'd be awesome.
Akira Hokuto
need this.
also wore like crazy makeup, and she would come to the ring with like this giant like red lion's mane
Yes,
wig
yes.
with like a gas mask with breather and this like
Amazing.
massive like they look like they came from another planet.
Wow.
And it set the North Korean fans on fire. Meltzer gave the match 4 stars, which is out of 5, which is a high honor, especially considering the fact that Akira Hokuto spent the whole previous night having the craziest sex of all time.
That's what kept her going. She was like, yo, I'm wrestling as a woman in North Korea tomorrow. I might die. We gon' fuck. Like I done never lived.
So-
and then she did. And it was beautiful.
And the government was so impressed by this that they apparently requested that Inoki return with just the women to have a, quote, festival of women's wrestling and taekwondo.
Even they know how good Joshi is. Before the women's revolution, even North Korea was like, man, Joshi
That's sad.
Joshi is fucking dope.
It's sad that the North Koreans were further ahead of the curve than Vince
With
McMahon.
women's
It seems like they missed kind of a business opportunity to get this women's Korean thing.
Yeah,
going.
to kidnap all of these women and force them to wrestle every day.
I just love the festival of sports and peace and the festival of women's wrestling and taekwondo.
Like you said, remember the World Taekwondo head quarter. Anybody can be Taekwondo qualified if they say so.
The other match was
Taekwondo is a state of mind, dude.
yeah.
Yeah,
As
Gung
a-
Fu is the real
As
deal.
a black belt in Taekwondo, I know that firsthand. The other match that they went crazy for was Inoki versus Flair.
Yeah.
Which Inoki won in 9 minutes. It was typical Ric Flair fare. Inoki was in the later part of his career. Ric Flair could wrestle anything and get a decent match out
True
of it.
story.
Did he
And it
do
was
the
one of those.
spot though where he goes up on the ropes and Inoki throws him down?
Yeah, he does do that. He does all the classic.
So he
Ric
does
Flair
the same match then.
Yeah.
So do you
exactly.
think that Scott Steiner was in the back? Same damn match again.
Hold me down?
How many North Koreans think this guy has good teeth?
Yeah. And the North Korean fans were so moved by this that, according to an article that was published by Mental Floss, one specific photo from the match of a battered Ric Flair being slammed around by an enraged Inoki became part of a deluge of North Korean propaganda leaflets that were dropped over Seoul, South Korea in 1995.
Whoa.
And it said at the bottom of a photo by Bill Apter. Remember they'd have the black and white photos from ringside?
Right, yeah.
And you'd stare at them things and look like, well, that doesn't look like that's connecting there. Slick looks like he's missing the Warlord by about a mile.
But it's just like, that's what they thought wrestling was.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and it's funny because Inoki was Japanese, right? So it's like
Right.
they used a Japanese guy beating up an American.
As
right?
Korean propaganda.
As North Korean propaganda. Yeah, it was.
And it says on the top of it, 4 stars, David Meltzer.
Imagine if I forget what Dave Meltzer gave it.
I know Meltzer's not actually there, but in my head, it's so
Meltzer,
funny.
I think,
Just think of him with this
so
fucking clipboard.
funny of him
it's
there.
good, but it's
Writing
not Flair
shorthand.
Steamboat.
Just writing shorthand, just off to the side, just like
With the-
oh well, like
with the ugliest jeans ever.
Watching it with that fucking look on his face, like
It's like,
that
oh.
PWG look. Like,
I love Dave
The
Meltzer.
acoustics.
I do love Dave Meltzer, but
Yeah.
I love that he's so Dave Meltzer.
He actually
It's part of his appeal.
He actually helped me out in a lecture that I did. Yeah, gave me the hookup.
way.
Yeah.
The acoustics in the 200,000 seat arena were not the best.
Well, he likes Asian wrestling, so any card with Japanese guys on it's going to get.
Yeah,
I'm
he
on
said that the
Meltzer.
match was pretty average, but yeah,
He took away
imagine-
2 stars because it was in North Korea.
Imagine
This match is 1 star, just like the 1 star on North Korea's flag.
But imagine being in Seoul, South Korea in 1995. You're walking down the street, you're going to work, and you see a bunch of leaflets of Ric Flair getting body slammed by Antonio Inoki with the words, "This will be you, love North Korea," underneath it. Like, that's the most North Korean stuff I've ever heard.
I hope that it actually did say love North Korea,
Yeah.
XOXO.
That's amazing.
Defect or die. So this was the show. I mean, the show was largely unimpressive.
Yeah.
It was just a wrestling show.
It was an exhibition.
Yeah.
Well, did they get out of there like Elvis out of the building? when
Well,
thing
this
was
is
done?
where it gets really, really hairy. Before they left, and mind you, the government still has their passports. Ric
Yes.
Flair has become increasingly more and more agitated throughout the entire trip.
I bet.
He was on center stage for all the coverage, right?
Yeah.
By the One State Media Network, but mind you, he was at the center of all the attention, being in the main event, right?
Biggest star.
Where he was given a request that was extremely, extremely harrowing, and this is from his book, his autobiography, "To Be the Man."
Before we left North Korea, our handler requested that I make a speech at the airport. They even had specific points they expected me to articulate. Things like North Korea being a workers' paradise and that America sucked. I looked at Bishop and I told him, I can't say this.
Liberty in North Korea, you guys. Liberty in North Korea. Go to link.
But this is like, they basically wanted like football
Flair to cut
teams
a
now,
Yeah.
right? Dude, they wanted Ric Flair to cut a promo on their behalf against the United States.
This would have been his.
They
I'm
wanted-
going to Disneyland, but it's just I'm living in North Korea.
They wanted him to put over North
Space
Korea.
Mountain's the oldest ride in the park, and just like American capitalism, it's going down the toilet.
All the ladies want to ride, woo, PU Mountain, because that is where the supreme leader,
Was born
Kim Jong-Il,
under a double rainbow.
was born. Woo! You see this suit? It's custom made by the glorious garment workers of this socialist utopia.
I'm dead. I died. It's fine.
I wouldn't even want to come back if I would never match in Greensboro next week.
It's so ridiculous.
I want that so bad.
By the way, I don't know who it was, but they remarked that wrestling in this match was wrestling for the wrestling if your audience was Mount Rushmore. That was the phrase that somebody used. So basically,
Teddy
according to
Roosevelt's like, I've seen better. I've seen better grizzly bear matches to begin with.
according to a number of people,
Abe Lincoln was a wrestler, so he was not impressed at all.
Those guys look like they're faking it to me, boys.
too many flippy doos. these kids today don't know how to sell. I was the first world champion.
Oh my God.
Just like a bunch of dudes doing the dick spot and being like,
but like imagine Hulk Hogan and, like if it was Hulk Hogan that went over and Hulk Hogan cutting a promo or trying to
Look
cut
at the garbage in the ring, Hulkster. But think of this though. If it was the Iron Sheik, he probably would. Okay, I do it. America stink. North Korea #1.
I mean,
North Korea has the best crack.
Kameraman, zoom it.
no one sells like the Iron Sheik sells. Iron Sheik, I hear that he's still selling to this day. If you walk by the
comedy store.
if you walk by the comedy store at 11 o'clock p.m.,
Yeah.
you'll still see him outside. selling.
So
But I'll say, Sheikah will be. He's nice to fans, though.
No, he is really
He's really
sweet.
nice to
He's
fans.
very nice.
So
I mean, they all are.
I'm still very obsessed with Abraham Lincoln just being very, very picky about new workers.
you think Jim Cornette's critical?
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, Lincoln.
Yeah.
Abe Lincoln.
That
would hate
dude
the-
built his own log cabin. You could kiss his dick.
Well, if you remember, he was on Star Trek, and he fought on another planet against, like, Genghis Khan and this rock dude and everything.
Yeah, and Genghis Khan's from Mongolia.
And they
wrestling
wrestle,
is one of the
too.
manly arts. Yeah, so that'd be a hell of a match.
these boys
Abe
some
Lincoln's
good
so
old
tall.
Yankee collar and
Yeah.
elbow.
Oh my god! Imagine the wingspan on Lincoln.
Yeah, shit,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's what,
He would-
6'3",
yeah.
6'4"?
He was 6'4".
Okay. Yeah. And now I'm back to Street Fighter, where I'm just like, who would be his assist?
Dalsim.
Oh, yeah, Dawson. He could even use his top hat if he ran out of limbs.
Yeah, the top hat expands to hit you in the face.
So Ric Flair, after a good bit of consternation, I mean, they had his passport. He was freaking out because he didn't want to cut this promo. He decided to improvise because any good promo knows how to work on the fly.
Yeah.
He's the best promo of all, perhaps. And he gave a very muted speech thanking North Korea for their hospitality.
Yeah.
But that's according to Ric Flair and everybody. But North Korea official media had a different story.
Oh, boy.
So, according to North Korea state media, Flair's speech was the following. Before I leave this beautiful, and peaceful country, I would like to make a tribute to the great leader, Mr. Kim Il-sung, who devoted his life to the Korean people's happiness, prosperity, and Korean unification. His Excellency Kim Il-sung will always be with us. That's the promo, according to North Korea.
Well, to be fair now, he did have Anoki's press people working on this thing. So what did Meltzer say the real deal was?
What did Meltzer give the promo?
6 stars. But
I give this promo 6 stars, but only under duress.
yeah,
It would have been 7, but Tokyo.
Right.
yeah.
He can work under pressure, though.
I think he overrates WWE matches personally, but that's for a different podcast. So what was the aftermath?
Mine, maybe. We'll talk about it.
Okay. What was the aftermath of this,
Yes.
guys? Because there has to be an aftermath. I mean, this was such a big momentous event.
Yeah.
Everybody got
Did they get
almost
pissed at Flair for not praising the leader?
No,
Or-
he got his passport back.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So
clearly, yeah.
he did good enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They were wowed by his promo.
We still
If you're
have
super famous, you get your passport back.
Apparently, like Ric
Yeah.
Flair during the SI thing was just like, somebody walked up to me and saw my Rolex and was like, that costs more than what I make in a year. And I was like, you want it?
Yeah, I'm 90% sure someone walked up to him, saw his Rolex, and was like, capitalist pig.
Yeah.
And then just didn't say anything else
'Cause
because
he-
they would have gotten arrested.
I'm glad they didn't see my shoes because, they cost more in your house.
I mean, like for people under like a totalitarian regime that emphasizes Marxism.
Nobody gives a shit about watches.
Right. Well, Ric
Yeah.
Flair is kind of a cartoon character of
Yeah.
what an American sort of they would
But
tell
the-
their
no,
Oh,
people.
there's like
they wanna-
blonde, hitting people in
But
the
the thing-
face.
If they wanted somebody convincingly rich, they would have brought over Nick Bockwinkel.
But it's just like a guy who's like consistently arrogant and talks about his money all the time and shit like
these
that.
are people
you know?
that have not seen an American in the flesh, and one of the first Americans they
Right.
see is like the Steiner brothers.
I mean, they-
or like Scott Norton or Two Cold Scorpions.
they
They
should've
missed
sent
so
over-
much, but they didn't miss that much.
Well,
I
the first American that they saw at that event was Two Cold Scorpio.
Look,
the first
that's pretty
American you
amazing.
ever see is Two Cold Scorpio coming out and breakdancing.
I will say they should have sent over David Hasselhoff because that might have eased relations between all the different.
So-
countries.
Or just Kit. Tell him Kit's black.
Yeah.
Kit's a black man. That's a car.
There we go.
He's a black man, but he wants to talk like a white guy.
So the aftermath was WCW packaged together a compilation of matches from this as the Collision in Korea pay-per-view, which was only bought by 30,000 people.
That's a lot though.
That seems like more than I would expect.
Well, I don't think they have Korean buy rates for this. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it was for what their normal pay-per-views were, it was like a little bit below what the average.
Well, do you remember in the old days when they would have lights out matches and the match was lights out because it wasn't sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance? They could have said this is a lights out festival because it's not sanctioned by the United States State Department.
Yeah, this is the what is this? The international.
This is an Albright free zone.
Yeah. I don't even know what the title of it is. It's like such a. It's so.
Let me guess.
It rolls off the
Festival
tongue.
of Peace and WCW Wrestling.
No, it's like the Pyongyang International Sports and Culture Festival of Peace.
There we go.
So Inoki did not manage to return successfully into politics until the late 2000s.
I like that he still got back in.
It didn't work. However, ironically, one of the wrestlers on the show, Hiroshi Ase, managed to, in the year that Inoki lost his election, win election to a seat in the House of Councilors. So
We'll just let fucking famous people do anything.
It kind of reminds me about, you remember during the Mexican War, you had Polk, who was the president, but then the Whigs just grabbed up Zachary Taylor, one of the generals, and ran him.
Yeah. So
And then Zachary Taylor did the sorry, I can't help it.
So-
the collision in California.
The compromise of 1850, which started the collision in California.
But so
Violence in Veracruz.
so
I was trying to make sure I almost got that
So Inoki has actually returned to North Korea on a few more occasions for quote unquote diplomatic missions, as recently as this past year.
No.
When he went
He
to
hasn't
North
quit yet.
When he tried to go to North Korea.
There's money in that territory, brother. I just know it.
When he tried to go to North Korea to kind of pave over tensions because of the nuclear issue, but instead he was shuttled to a zoo for a tour.
Oh, I thought you were going to say to live.
A zoo for people.
And all the animals are party members.
Yeah. So you thought he was going to meet with government officials and said
These are working bears.
Yeah.
Well, red pandas, Pat. Sorry, but it's true.
There we go.
Yeah. He thought he was going to be have a meeting with government officials and said the government officials took him to the zoo for a tour.
Because what do they say, in Rocky? Take him to the zoo.
Yeah. Dennis Rodman, when he went to North Korea the first time, actually asked Ric Flair to go with him, but Ric Flair obviously refused.
Yeah, no shit. They almost made me renounce my country.
I feel
the
like
last
you
time I was
only
there.
need to go to North Korea once. And maybe not even need, but I feel like if you're going to go, I feel like you go once and you go I'm good.
And then you write a Vice article.
It seems to me the Japanese...
Hi, I'm Scott Norton for Vice Magazine.
The Japanese seemed like they had a much better time over there than the Americans did.
Well, Akira Hokuto and Kensuke Sasaki surely did.
Well, yeah, and the other guy made political bank out of it, too.
You know why? Because they lived like there was no tomorrow.
Right. Well, no, but what I would say about that, and the reason, I think, is because Japan being next to Korea is way more aware of the danger inherent of being there, so they knew to, for the most part, keep their shit
Eric
together.
Bischoff,
Whereas
Eric probably had
Americans,
something to do with
in
it,
the
though.
most American fashion ever, like a person in a fucking dark room looking for a light switch, just knocking shit
Eric,
over.
it's not their fault, though. I mean, who knows that the country's going to be that wicked until
Well,
you go
Eric
there?
Bischoff
The
didn't even
Japanese knew.
consult the
Yeah,
State
Bischoff didn't
Department.
consult the State
He talked to
Department.
his friends that worked at CNN who may or may not have any expertise. It might
Yeah.
be the guy that does the sports show. I don't
we
know.
don't actually know what his friends did. He could have talked to someone at CNN who could have been like, "The fuck is you doing?"
It's it's-
And maybe he did, and then he turned to the guy next to him and was like, "Oh, you're his assistant?" And he was like, "Yeah. Should I go to North Korea?" Go North Korea.
Yeah.
See, it shows
He,
you how
he went to go
badly-
ask Larry King. He was just
that's what I was thinking. It was like a young Wolf Blitzer.
It shows you how badly
Sure.
the companies run, though. When Eric Bischoff can flout the State Department's directive, but he gets fired for paying too much money for bringing Kiss on the show.
he broke travel restrictions to do business in North Korea. And he keeps his job, but he brings the No Limit Soldiers in.
Well, maybe they should have fired him for that one.
But that's the story of wrestling in North Korea.
Oh, that's
Perhaps
amazing
if
and
things go
weird.
crazy, we might need to have another Pyongyang International Sports and Culture Festival.
Oh, I know.
But we're not going to be able to get Ric Flair for it, but maybe Dennis Rodman.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll do it from the zoo next time.
the worm returns.
We can get Dennis Rodman tomorrow.
Let's get Rodzilla on here, dude. Call him up easy.
It's a rematch of Rodman Malone rematch.
Hulkster is in such a state right now that he probably would
go
do
to North Korea.
He should go there forever. Don't come back.
I know. Do the job to a 72-year-old
Don't come
Tony
back.
Inoki. Yeah. So
But yeah, that's
Trash.
that is the internet. That's wrestling in North Korea. That is Collision in Korea.
And what did it get on WCW? Did anybody actually remember watching this damn thing?
no. That's what I was going to ask because you said it got
it's
a.
not like available.
It was on pay-per-view.
Well, yeah.
Was it available in a lot of markets or was it restricted? Markets?
I don't know. I mean, this was in 1995. I don't know what its reach was, but there was.
You said the buy rate was 30,000.
30,000, right?
Which is fucking nuts. But also that gives you the exact number of wrestling nerds in America at the time.
Yeah.
Like of the most hardcore of the hardcore, there were about 30,000.
It's the overlap of wrestling nerds and foreign policy nerds. That's
Foreign policy
Yeah.
wonks.
yeah, wonks and nerds.
And then
Probably the CIA watching it.
Yeah. And then remember for I would say for 35% of those households, it's like 10 dudes around a TV
Yeah.
just watching New Japan being real excited.
I mean, yeah, it's like what do you want to watch? Do you want to watch Slamboree?
Yeah.
Or do you want to watch a wrestling event in North Korea?
Yeah, 200,000 North Koreans sitting on their hands.
Yeah.
And Ric Flair's going to cut a promo at the end against the United States.
Double rainbows! When the Supreme Leader was born, Jong-Il, a flaming figure 4, streamed across the sky. And Kim Jong-Il came to me and said, "Woo, Nate! I've invented a move that will lead you to victory over, the capitalist pigs." And that is why I've won 16. I'm a 16-time world heavyweight champion. Only eclipsed by Kim Jong-Il, who's won the NWA world title. That 10 pounds of gold 53 times.
He's the Jerry Lawler.
David Crockett. And that's wrestling diplomacy in North Korea.
Oh, God. That was amazing. God.
It was like we were there.
The only impersonation I can do is any of the Bellas. So that's
Well, Scott Norton.
You're Scott Norton.
no.
Is
Because
amazing.
Scott Morton is more of like, hey guys, Nikki Bella is definitely like, oh my God, John. So like, have you heard about North Korea? And then John Donnerhausen is like, well, Nicole, I heard that North Korea was very bad. Oh my God, John, but like, have you heard that like in North Korea they like don't have Louboutins? well, Nicole, I think that maybe we should talk about North Korea later. When are we getting married? And that's it.
You can see that on Total Diplomacy.
Okay, but you would watch Total Diplomacy.
No, I don't watch
100%.
those reality shows.
I would. If it was just a
John
bunch-
Cena doing the stern dad act.
Oh my God.
In the ugliest clothes.
Why do all of his suits have shorts? Don't understand.
He has a hard time fitting his calves in a pair of pants. Well, it's like
He's a big
Hulk Hogan's
AC/DC
arm.
fan.
He's so rich. You can't buy like 5 good pairs of pants.
Hey,
He has 5
he's
good
a
pairs of
wrestler.
shorts.
He's thrifty, and it's 3 suits for $159 at the Hollywood Suit Outfit.
I didn't even-
3 suits, 3 shirts, 3 ties, 3 hankies, 3 belts.
3 buttons.
Look, I didn't even.
More than 3 buttons.
I didn't know that cross colors made suits, but apparently they make them plenty in John size, and it's very upsetting.
But it doesn't matter where they hold WrestleMania. This is a record that will never be eclipsed.
Yeah.
WCW did claim
Until Vince figures out how to make everyone go to WrestleMania.
He's working on it.
He's working on it.
Him and Linda are working on it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, although WCW did claim that they attracted over 250,000 people to bash at the beach in Huntington Beach, where they just set up a ring in the middle of the beach.
Of the beach.
So just everyone who walked by.
So it was everyone
like,
who
counted.
walked by.
Fucking Dave Meltzer's out there with sunscreen on his nose
And like a clicker.
and a hat, and he's got a clicker.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, well, clearly these numbers are underreported. Click, click, click.
It's like back when I used to work at like. It's back when I used to work in fucking GameWorks and just like. Well, it's All-Star Weekend. Everybody counts, even that baby.
But this is truly the biggest wrestling show
Man.
in the history of professional wrestling. I think the record will probably stand for time in memoriam. And North Korea is known for its penchant for hyperbole, but it can truthfully say that it held and was the place of the biggest wrestling show in the history of the world.
And its leader doesn't poop.
And and Kim Jong-Il could watch the whole thing because he didn't have to take a bathroom break.
He should be the announcer. He's a perfect announcer because he doesn't ever have to get up. He could announce Wrestle Kingdom and he wouldn't bitch about it like JR.
Kim didn't have to wear a diaper.
I'm just glad that there was one
JR's
foreign
old
wrestling
and
event
Kim will
without
never
Jeff
age.
Jarrett
Well,
involved.
Oh, man. Danielle, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, geez. You can find me at Screen Junkies, like often. You can find me at just Danielle Radford on Twitter. You can find me at Tights Fights. You can find me on Hyper RPG playing these tabletop role playing games with them dice, son.
We'll have to come back and talk about that.
Yeah.
Dude,
don't know if-
anytime y'all would like to talk about movies.
I don't think we've ever had an
comic books.
RPG episode, so we got to have you back.
We had
trading cards.
Yeah, we had the card
like
games.
Magic the
Yeah,
Gathering.
but
and
the
shit.
table
But it was
games
just-
are more fun.
Yeah, and that episode was just me doing a Buddy Landell impersonation.
At a confused Atlas Novak.
We did learn though that the Lord of the Pit is the best card.
I told Frank Dusick that I laid down a fucking Lord of the Pit and Mogwez. And Invader number 2, Jose, couldn't help but do the job.
Wizards of the Coast can suck my ass.
All right,
Hey.
I said it.
What
Yeah.
else? Yeah, if you guys ever want to talk about Toad Steve's, Totes Bells, Wags now, which is
What's Wags?
Well, that's the new one. So Brandy Rhodes is on Wags, which is women's Wags Atlanta, Wives and Girlfriends Atlanta. Brandy Rhodes is about to be on the season, which means I have to watch it now.
Oh, shit. Okay. Wow. Okay. I was.
So yeah, just like WWE, well, and other forms of wrestling, are taking over. So now
Yeah.
I have to watch Wags and like
when you
only
said,
care about her and Cody, but that's fine.
when you said wags, I just had recently been turned onto this the expression wags to mean weird alone guys. Which was an expression that Eddie Ift, comedian Eddie Ift, we were talking in the green
that's
room,
fair.
and he was hosting the show, and Eddie was just like, he's like, yeah, there's a few couples, but it's mostly just like a bunch of wags, and I was like, what? He's
I don't know.
like,
Is that a racial slur?
I was like,
And it's like,
and
no.
I was like, it sounds bad. What is that? And he was like, oh, it's like weird alone guys that show up to comedy clubs. I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, you mean comedians?
Yeah, the comedians. But yeah, and check out Tights and Fights too. Tights and Fights is one of my favorite wrestling podcasts.
Oh, shut up.
I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass.
You
It's
don't listen.
genuinely
You listen
fun.
to Tights and Fights?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I
listen
don't,
to
I
Tights
don't
and
think
Fights.
anyone listens to my. Okay.
No, I love it. It's awesome. And you and Hal Lublin and Mike Eagle run such a fucking great show over there because you guys, in the spirit of the new day, have the power of positivity. Check out Danielle's podcast, Tights and Fights, over at Maximum Fun Network. And you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/TheGoodsPod. We're on Twitter @TheGoodsPod. Big shout out to our friend Richard Eden up there in the North Pole, our webmaster, doing the hard work at TheGoodsPod.com. We're coming your way soon, buddy. Come see me and Mr. Goodnight at the Yukon Comedy Festival at the end of March.
Can I say something? Isn't Richard Eden also the guy that sang Magnet and Steel?
Pat, what's the folks do when they get to iTunes?
Rate, review, subscribe, and in social media with us.
But not me, please. Unless you're either Jay Geary or Nicole.
Well, I'm talking about the Twitter handle thing,
Yeah.
and the Facebook group and all
Tweet
that
at
sort
us,
of. Yeah,
yeah.
tweet at us, Facebook at
Retweet us like X-Pac did the other day.
Yeah. Friendster us, dude. Hook it up. because it shows the attitude of gratitude.
And if y'all don't have the attitude of gratitude, we're going to ship you off to North Korea with the rest of the commies.
And song of the week this week, only appropriate. This is a great rapper out of Nashville. His name is Brian Brown, and this song is called Ric Flair. We'll see you next week. Woo!
Back in the lab with the Ric Flair. Back in the lab with my Ric Flair. Back in the lab with the Ric Flair. Put on your robe or something and do your strap. Do your strap. Put on your robe or something. Check it out, look. Check it out, look. I'm still trying to go to Jacob with 25,000. You sitting on 25.
The Goods from the Woods was mixed, edited, and distributed by me, Rivers Langley. You can find the show on Twitter at The Goods Pod. Our theme song was composed by DJ Smiles. Check him out on Twitter at DJ Smiles.